We're going to take a closer look for the next few minutes at the possible Conservative Party strategy heading into the expected federal election. Here's some more from the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, and his social media video post in response to Justin Trudeau's resignation yesterday.
Every Liberal MP in power today and every potential Liberal leadership contender fighting for the top job helped Justin Trudeau break the country over the last 9 years. All Liberal politicians actively worked to pass into law the job-killing inflationary carbon tax, a tax that Carbon Tax Carney endorsed in his book. All supported a law quadrupling the tax over the next 5 years. All voted for or actively supported Trudeau's out-of-control spending, debt, and immigration. All passed Trudeau's housing policies that doubled the cost of homes. All Liberal politicians helped pass catch-and-release bail and house arrest for the most rampant reoffenders.
So that is Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, the official opposition leader, and you get a sense of the kind of things that we will hear in the future regardless of who is chosen as successor to Justin Trudeau. He will attempt to be tying all of them to the legacy and the record of the past Liberal government. It's one of the things we're going to talk about with Ian Brodie this morning, the former Chief of Staff for Prime Minister Stephen Harper from 2006 to 2008. He continues to organize for the party. He's now also a professor in the Department of Political Science at the University of Calgary. And he's up awfully early for us this morning, and I appreciate it. So good morning and welcome, Ian.
Good morning, Heather. Happy New Year.
You too. Listen, we'll talk strategy in just a second because certainly from the party leader, we've got an indication of the kinds of things we're going to hear. But just can I get your overall reaction and that which you've heard in the West, in your circles, to the Prime Minister's announcement yesterday?
Well, of course, in this part of the country, we were on the leading edge of the kind of skepticism and then outright opposition to Mr. Trudeau's leadership. So I have to say the sort of sense of relief that he's now seems to be edging towards the exit was palpable everywhere, in particular because the climate policies of the federal government have done so much to hold back the growth of the principal industry here. I think there's hope for better days ahead. But that said, a worry in the short term that we'll be left without decisive leadership as the threat of the Trump tariffs comes into effect over the course of the next couple of months, and of the economic damage further economic damage that can do.
We certainly heard something similar from the premier of your province when she spoke of what should have been done, in her view, was a call for an election right now, not prorogation. Danielle Smith called that a very selfish move on the part of the Prime Minister, the need for an election. There will be an election in the near term. What do you think? What do you anticipate the Liberals? We don't have many answers to timelines and plans. What are you seeing as far as the horizon when you would expect to be fighting an election?
Well, the Prime Minister has sort of jammed his own party by setting the outer limits of the length of this leadership campaign. He's suspended Parliament until the 24th of March. Presumably the Liberals now feel they're under irreversible pressure to have a leader by that point, which means a short leadership race. No opportunity for the kind of party renewal the Conservatives had in their last leadership race when Mr. Poilievre recruited nearly 500,000 people to join the party. So that itself is a constraint. It means that very shortly thereafter, the government is into a series of votes in the House of Commons set by the policies of Mr. Trudeau that will lead us to an election long before July the 1st. So I think we're now in the short days leading up to an election campaign, and whoever the new leader is will have very little time to do what is obviously necessary, is to distance themselves from Mr. Trudeau's legacy.
So perhaps opportunity for the Conservative Party. Again, if this is an election right now, the dominant position, certainly in the polling for the Conservative Party, Eric Grenier was telling me earlier this morning, it's 24% according to his poll tracker. It's been higher in some, but a dominant position right now. But the party conceivably would have wanted to fight an election against Justin Trudeau. How does his resignation change things?
I don't think it changes, in all fairness, that much because it comes so late, and there is no part of Mr. Trudeau's legacy of the last few years that's popular in the opinion polls. So there's cost of living issues, there's crime issues, there's the looming threat of tariffs from the United States. There's a promise of national unity, and obviously the economy has been shrinking on a per capita basis. So that leaves whoever it is very little time to reverse course. I think the interesting thing will be to see who comes into this leadership race wanting to neutralize Mr. Poilievre's best issue, which is the carbon tax. Who runs as the candidate who, after 10 years of supporting the carbon tax, promises to repeal it before going to the polls? They won't have a chance to do that. But I'll be looking to see who it is who wants to overthrow that very central plank of Mr. Trudeau's legacy.
But with Mr. Trudeau gone or going, carbon tax, it was very much an axe the tax and talk about the rebate,
Yes.
of course. If Justin Trudeau is gone from the scene, does Pierre Poilievre have to be thinking of more? Surely just saying that axe the tax slogan is not going to be enough if the landscape has changed.
No, because Mr. Trudeau has not given his successor any time to repeal that tax or to stop the increases that are planned over the next couple of months. So whoever the new leaders will go into that election campaign having to defend not just the carbon tax of the past couple of years, but of the increase in the carbon tax and of all the increases in the cost of living that are going to come with it at a time when that's the top of mind issue for everybody. At the same time, there's no time to change course on immigration policy. There's no time to change course on the kind of lax criminal justice policies of the government. He's really, if he had left a year and a half ago, there's time for some new person to come in and clean the house. But there's really, he's left it so late with caucus forcing his hand here. There's no time. Whoever the new person is going to be saddled with the policies and with the legacy of the policies of Mr. Trudeau, and there's just no way around it. And
we heard that from the leader in that video message, obviously tying anyone potentially to that record, to the legacy and to the government and all that it's done. And he said further that we've been playing earlier in the morning, they just stayed with Justin Trudeau as leader until they decided he was no longer popular enough to win their next election. But what about Mark Carney? How does he figure into things?
Well, look, I mean, let me go back to my original point here. This is a very short this is going to have to be a very short leadership race if it's going to wrap up by March 15th or March 18th and give the new leader some time to get organized for the recall of the House of Commons on the 24th of March. So that leaves almost no time, and quite possibly no time, for any of these candidates to sign up new members, to do the party renewal that's necessary. It's a normal part of every leadership campaign, and of the renewal that went on during the last Conservative race, went on for quite several months. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Liberals freeze the membership list as of last night, or maybe tonight or tomorrow night, and say that nobody can sign up any new members because there's just really not enough time for a membership drive. That, I think, privileges people who are currently in the government. In fact, it works counter to the party's interests of letting the party distance itself from Mr. Trudeau. I think that works to the advantage of people who have already been running active leadership campaigns over the last 2 years.
Let me ask you, there's been a lot of discussion about 10 years, nearly 10 years, the Trudeau government has been in place, an appetite for change. And that was certainly something we saw back in 2015 with Stephen Harper, your former boss, 9 years in power, and again, a similar appetite for something new after 9 years of government. Are you, in terms of advising, talking with Conservatives into this next election, are there any lessons from Stephen Harper's campaigns that you are deriving, looking into leading Pierre Poilievre into this fight ahead?
Look, I think Poilievre was right 3 years ago, when he started talking about the threat of inflation. Inflation destroys everything in its path. It's economically damaging as well as politically damaging. Poilievre was the first person in the country to be on that issue at a time when lots of other people poo-pooed the concern about inflation. It turns out he was right, and I think he's reaping the benefit now of having been very early to be right. I think on the issue of you look at his year-end interview with Jordan Peterson. I think probably most of your viewers have seen it by now.
Sure.
I think the line that jumps out from that is we're now going to wait around for 2 months while the governing party gets its act together for the next election, while the country goes through what could be an economically devastating trade war with the United States. I think he's right about that in advance as well, and we'll reap the benefit of that over the course of the next couple of months. So I'm not too worried about, I think Poilievre has positioned himself very well on all of the issues that are still going to hang out here. And the fact that Mr. Trudeau has left his successor with very little time to renew that party, that's the big challenge for the other side.
Okay. Ian, thank you very much. I really appreciate your perspective and hope you'll come back for more questions as we look to bring this on an ongoing basis. Obviously, this is not an issue we'll only be talking about today for sure. Thank you. Ian Brodie, former Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Stephen Harper. He's in Calgary this morning.